He stood over her, voice raised, pointing, "Get up and show some respect," while she sat 8 months pregnant, clutching her ribs in silence. This isn't just a story about a ruined holiday. It's about Lena, a woman erased in her own home, whose name was left off every list, until she made one of her own. What would you do if the people closest to you turned respect into a transaction? Drop your thoughts below because this one, it hits hard. I only wanted to sit down for 5 minutes. But apparently, even a chair had to be earned with silence. The tree blinked softly in the corner of the room, casting a wash of red and gold onto the hardwood floor. A faint smell of cinnamon drifted from the candle she'd lit out of habit, not because she wanted to. The couch creaked as she lowered herself slowly, one hand instinctively pressed against her stomach, the other clutching a roll of tape. Outside neighbors' houses blinked back at her in full overachieving glory. Inflatable snowmen, Santa, climbing chimneys, mechanical reindeer, and synchronized prance. It all felt like a show she wasn't invited to. Lena shifted the half-wrapped toy truck aside and picked up a square gift box. Her fingers worked methodically, folding paper into clean corners, but her mind was elsewhere. Jason had said something earlier that wouldn't settle. "Don't worry about the party," he'd said, not looking up from his phone. "Mom's handling everything. Everything." The way he'd said it made her stomach tighten, not from the baby, but from that creeping sense of being excluded again. Not ignored. Not insulted. Just left out. Like wallpaper. She glanced at her phone. A new message blinked on the lock screen. Julia. "Hey, did you mean to drop $3,900 on catering this week?" Amex pinged me. Looks weird. Lena's pulse skipped. She stared at the screen, rereading it twice. Jason hadn't mentioned catering. He hadn't mentioned a venue. He hadn't even asked what kind of food she liked. She opened her email. Search catering. A single hit. One invoice. Paid. Sent to an email address she didn't recognize, but the billing info was hers. The delivery location. Gloria's house. She sat up straighter. The baby kicked low and insistent, as if reacting to her tension. She closed the laptop and stood slowly moving toward the kitchen where Jason sat nursing a La Croix and watching highlights from some game she didn't care about. "Did you use my Amex for the party?" Her voice was calm. Too calm. Jason didn't look up. For the catering. Julia texted me." He sighed. "Yeah, Mom had to book it last week. Don't worry, it's all taken care of." With my card, he finally looked up. "You always pay for this stuff, babe." There was no apology, not even awareness, just a soft wave of entitlement brushing past her like a breeze that didn't ask permission to pass through. She opened the fridge not because she needed anything, but to look away. "I thought we were doing something small." "Just the two of us this year," she said quietly. Mom's excited. It's kind of her thing. Lena closed the fridge. "You didn't ask me. You didn't even tell me. You didn't include me." Jason shrugged. "Well, you've been tired lately. And stressed. I figured you'd prefer not to deal with it." There was something in his tone, patronizing but painted over with concern, that made her shoulders tense. Her hand curled around the countertop edge, grounding herself. "I would have liked to be asked." Jason didn't respond right away. Then, as if offering a solution instead of salt in a wound, he said, "Just relax. Don't be difficult." The word slid across the room and hit her like a slap. Difficult. There it was. The label, applied so easily by the person who once kissed her forehead and whispered promises into her spine. Now it was shorthand for stop resisting. She walked out of the kitchen without a word. Fingers trembling slightly as she opened her laptop again in the living room. A single click opened her bank dashboard. The baby shifted again, not a kick this time. Just a quiet stretch, and Lena inhaled slowly. She whispered to herself more to the silence than to him. Not this time. "Why are you sitting there?" My mom's standing with a plate, and everyone applauded like I had won something. The fireplace crackled behind me, throwing shadows across my lap, and for a brief second, the warmth lulled me into forgetting where I was. Not home, not welcomed. Just present. I sat with my hands resting on the swell of my belly ankles, swollen beneath the hem of a maternity dress I had chosen too carefully for a party that wasn't mine. The air was thick with the scent of pine-roasted turkey and sugar, every holiday cliché packaged to perfection. Jason's family home hadn't changed in the 4 years I'd known him. The same mahogany banisters, the same gold-rimmed family portraits, the same absence of curiosity in their eyes when they looked at me. Except now on Christmas Eve, the place looked like it belonged on a magazine cover. Gold and red ribbons tied around chair backs, white candles glowing in every window, matching sweaters on nearly every guest. Except me. I had brought pumpkin pie and a basket of wrapped gifts, arms full and breath short. No one had taken them. I placed them gently on the kitchen counter unnoticed, then made my way to the fireplace, thinking a moment off my feet might be allowed. Jason had disappeared into a crowd of cousins and neighbors. Gloria stood at the far end of the room, her hair perfectly styled, balancing a plate filled with roasted vegetables and ham. She wasn't struggling. She wasn't looking at me. But Jason was. And then across the hum of polite laughter and silverware clinks, his voice boomed like a dropped plate. "Why are you sitting there?" My mom's standing with a plate. Silence, a beat, then clapping. 2 hands, then 4, then 20. A strange, polite applause as if I had just completed a trick or performed a silent act of defiance worthy of correction. I didn't move. Not yet. I scanned the room. Eyes refused to meet mine. Conversations resumed quietly, cautiously. Jason turned back to his beer like it hadn't happened. Gloria stood waiting not at me but through me. I stood slowly, the baby shifting, one palm pressed against my spine. The muscles in my legs screamed, but I didn't show it. Not here. I stepped aside. Gloria walked past, sat in the chair I had left, and didn't offer a thank you. Her plate remained perfectly balanced. Jason didn't look. No one did. I stood still for a second longer than necessary, the cold air from the hallway creeping through the bottom of the door like a warning. I looked at the hallway mirror, its gilt frame catching candlelight. My reflection stared back. Tired, bloated, erased. Not angry. Not yet. Just gone. The noise of the party resumed. A toddler giggled near the staircase. Someone opened another bottle of wine. Gloria laughed at something, at nothing. I turned, picked up my purse, walked slowly to the door. No one followed. I reached for the handle but paused. My coat still hung on the rack untouched. I didn't put it on. My fingers hesitated over the sleeve, then let go. I turned back to the room, all of them facing away, laughing again like nothing had happened. Jason leaned into a cousin, saying something I didn't want to hear. My lips parted just enough for a whisper. Soft, precise. Check your phones. And then I stepped outside into the snow. They clapped when I stood up. They thought that was the finale, but it was just the intermission. The thermostat hummed softly in the background as Lena pressed her palms against the hotel room's windowsill, watching the thick December snow fall in slow, unhurried swirls. Each flake felt like punctuation. Final. Clean. Quiet. She could still feel the imprint of the night before, not on her skin, but somewhere deeper, dull and heavy. But that feeling no longer led. It followed. The room was spare, designed for short stays and unmemorable goodbyes. A king-sized bed with taut white sheets, one desk, one chair, and a breakfast tray she hadn't touched. She didn't come here to rest. The television was off. Her laptop was open. The screen glared back at her, 17 tabs loaded like dominoes. Netflix, Uber, Amazon, DoorDash, Spotify, bank, PayPal, cloud storage, wedding registry, insurance. She moved between them with quiet precision, her fingers calm even as her mind calculated down to the decimal. One by one, passwords were changed, recovery emails rerouted, services unlinked, payment methods scrubbed. His name, Jason Thomas Myers, removed from billing info-sharing settings, login credentials. She didn't do it in a rage. She did it like someone finally wiping the condensation off a mirror. In the corner of the room, the baby registry box, the one she'd been too polite to mention until now, sat unopened. She hadn't checked it in weeks. But today it mattered again. She highlighted the address field and replaced the old house number with the hotel's P.O. box. Below that, she typed her maiden name, Lena June Carter. An email pinged. Julia. Subject all reconciled. Attached. She clicked it open. The spreadsheet was immaculate, every charge, every date categorized. A pie chart in the corner circled in red 92%. She paid for 92% of it all. Rent, utilities, birthdays, groceries, subscription boxes, wine, the hotel booking, even the paper for their save the dates. Jason's financial contribution had been as ceremonial as his promises. A knock on the door startled her slightly. Room service, no. No one knew she was here. Lena remained seated, ignoring it. The knock faded. She opened a new email draft. Subject outstanding balance and divorce proceedings. She typed the body slowly, precisely. No insults, no bitterness. Just lines of documentation and links. Dates, screenshots, subtotals. She CC'd Jason, CC'd Gloria, and CC'd the lawyer Julia had referred to her a sharp woman named Michelle Sorensen, whose credentials Lena had researched at 3 a.m. a week ago when the baby couldn't sleep and neither could she. The cursor blinked at the bottom of the screen. She hesitated for half a second, then attached a second file, the baby registry, but this time under her new email address. New shipping location, new login. No access for him. No visibility. Just her. Her phone buzzed for the 19th time that hour. Jason's name again. You're ruining everything, his message read. She typed back with steady thumbs. I'm correcting everything. Then below it, she pasted the registry link and hit send. In the trash bin by the desk, a small torn envelope rested atop the remains of a holiday invitation, the one Gloria had mailed to everyone except Lena. Her name hadn't even been handwritten. It had been printed likely by a secretary on heavy cardstock that smelled like lavender and arrogance. Lena had torn it in half this morning, and then again. And then one more time just to be sure. Now with the scent of scorched paper lingering faintly in the air, she clicked into her state's online divorce portal. The lawyer's instructions were clear. The supporting documents had already been uploaded. The checklist beside each field was green. All that remained was one final click. She didn't rush it. She reread everything. Then slowly, intentionally pressed submit. There was no flourish. No sound effect. Just a silent confirmation message, petition received. She leaned back, breathing in through her nose. There was no sadness, no swelling soundtrack in her head. Just quiet. The kind that doesn't hurt. Her calendar pinged. Due date, 9 days. She closed it without reading further, then reopened a blank one. She typed solo, January, and saved it. They wanted me invisible. Instead, I gave them numbers they couldn't ignore. The first email came in at 7:12 a.m. A chirp, then another and another. Her phone screen was lit like a switchboard, vibrating with the ferocity of a toddler's tantrum. Lena sat cross-legged on the hotel bed, a fleece blanket wrapped around her legs, her laptop open and glowing. Outside, the snow had stopped, but the sky remained sullen, a dense sheet of gray pressing down on the city. She ignored the phone. Where's the Netflix? Did you change the Uber login? Prime says I need a new card. A string of texts increasingly erratic, all from Jason. A few from Gloria. One in all caps. Do you remember you're pregnant? Lena didn't respond. Instead, she was working. The PDF on her screen titled Reconciliation, 2 years, was fully formatted now. It was meticulous down to the cent. Monthly charges, shared utilities, grocery bills, flights, subscriptions, holiday gifts. Her name beside nearly every entry, her card as the primary on every account. A neat total at the bottom, $24,600. At the top of the page beneath the date sat her name, Lena June Carter. No hyphen, no Myers, not anymore. She hit send. The email split cleanly to 3 recipients, Jason, Gloria, and Michelle Sorensen, her lawyer. The subject line was sharp, professional, formal notice, financial restitution and proceedings. Within 15 minutes, Michelle confirmed receipt and began filing motions for divorce under grounds of marital financial misconduct and coercive debt structuring. Lena signed them electronically, her stylus gliding smoothly across the screen as if she were just approving a package delivery. More calls came. Jason left voicemails desperate, increasingly shrill. "You're making this bigger than it is. You're really doing this. Think of the baby. I'm sorry. Okay." No, he wasn't. Not really. She could tell by the timing. The apologies always followed the consequences, never the cruelty. Lena opened the hotel room mini fridge and poured herself a glass of water. Her hand trembled slightly, not from nerves, but from the dull ache of carrying extra weight for far too long. Another email arrived. "Gloria, just checking in. Hope you're still thinking of the baby. He deserves to know both sides of the family. No mention of the catering bill. No mention of the humiliation. Just a thinly veiled attempt to reframe guilt as concern." Lena deleted it without reading the rest. A memory came back uninvited. Jason at the grocery store last spring, fumbling at the register because his card was declined. Turning to her with that sheepish smile. "Can you get this one? It's for my mom's birthday dinner. Just this once." Just this once had grown legs. It walked into every corner of their lives. Now Lena was amputating it. Her laptop pinged again, a notification from Michelle's case portal. Document submitted. A motion filed with the court demand for restitution based on financial abuse and misappropriation. Attached Lena's spreadsheet, 3 years of bank statements, and Jason's latest party invoice labeled business development in his company's expense system. Then came the real surprise. A call. Not from Jason. From a blocked number. "Hi, this is Veronica from Eastwell and Maynard LLP, the voice said. "You don't know me, but I work with Jason's employer. There's been a discrepancy reported with a corporate charge for a recent event." Lena didn't speak, just listened. "We have a caterer who claims they were booked for a private holiday dinner, but the expense was logged as a client event. We're conducting a formal review. Could you confirm your involvement?" Lena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I can confirm it wasn't business-related. I wasn't invited." The line went quiet for a moment. Then the voice. "Thank you. That's all we need." She hung up. Another message from Jason flashed instantly. "You're ruining everything." Lena didn't reply. She simply dragged the message into a folder labeled Exhibit F, Emotional Manipulation. At 4:41 p.m., a package arrived at the hotel's front desk. No note, no return address. Inside a check, $3,500. No apology, no breakdown, just a number silence in ink. She slid it into a manila envelope she'd pre-labeled Debt Recovery, Phase 1. And then as the sky dimmed outside and the hotel lights clicked on, she finally sat down, not from exhaustion but completion. They found someone to smile in photos, but they still write the checks to me. Lena sat on the wide windowsill of her new apartment, a mug of peppermint tea warming her palms. Outside, the snow had begun its slow retreat, leaving behind muddy sidewalks and glistening puddles that reflected the late February sun. Her apartment was quiet, save for the soft hum of the radiator and the occasional creak of the hardwood floors. It was the kind of quiet she used to crave, and now finally it didn't feel like a punishment. A beige envelope sat on the counter. She hadn't opened it yet, but the return address made its contents obvious. She already knew the number, $4,100. No note, no memo, just ink and obligation. She slid the envelope into her filing folder, Debt Recovery, Phase 2, flipping past the previous entry with a practiced hand. She didn't smile. She didn't sigh. She simply documented it and moved on. Later, during a lull in her work-from-home inbox, she checked Instagram, a habit she'd broken weeks ago, but today her fingers moved before her mind could stop them. The algorithm, ever loyal to patterns, served her the image at the top of her feed. Jason grinning in a navy sweater. His arm wrapped around a woman Lena didn't recognize and didn't need to. They were framed by a familiar oak table. Her old oak table. The one she'd sanded and stained the summer before their wedding. Her wine glasses. Her embroidered holiday tablecloth. The caption, "Love always finds its way." She stared at the photo a moment longer, then took a screenshot and filed it away. Folder name replaced, but still reimbursed. She didn't dwell. She didn't scroll further. She closed the app, set the phone down, and took another sip of tea. Julia's text came a moment later. Do I send champagne or a punchline? Lena let the message sit. The joke was tempting, but it didn't need an audience. She placed the mug beside her rose from the windowsill and walked over to her bookshelf, minimal organized with only the essentials. Above the top shelf hung a small photo frame. Not of Jason. Not of anyone else. An ultrasound. The black and white swirl of their child, a child Lena now referred to in her mind without possessives. Not his. Not ours. Just a future. She took the frame off the wall, flipped it over, and uncapped a pen. On the back of the cardboard, she wrote slowly, deliberately, "No legacy should be built on erasure." She read it twice, then returned the photo to its place. Her laptop pinged. An email from Michelle. Subject: final payment. Due in 6 days. Shall we escalate? Lena leaned forward, clicked reply. No, they'll pay. They always do. She hit send and sat back, eyes drifting to the window where melting snow tapped softly against the glass. There were no more plates to clear, no chairs to surrender, just the gentle rhythm of a life she no longer had to explain. I didn't walk away from them. I walked back toward myself. The records office smelled of paper and lemon cleaner, sterile, ordinary, almost kind. Pale March sunlight stretched across the linoleum floor, catching dust motes that danced in the quiet. No drama, no music swelling in the background. Just the steady hum of printers, soft coughs, and the gentle rustle of folders being passed from hand to hand. A room full of endings, most of them quiet. Lena sat on the wooden bench, her coat folded neatly across her lap. Her name was called her real name, and she rose. At the counter, the clerk didn't glance up immediately, too busy scanning barcodes and checking checkboxes. Final decree, the woman said flatly, sliding the stapled pages across. Sign here and here. Lena picked up the pen. It didn't tremble in her grip. She signed. Not as Carter Hughes, just Lena Carter. The clerk looked up. Do you want a copy for your records? Lena paused. The question felt larger than the moment. No, she said. I just want my name back. The clerk nodded. No questions, no judgment, just a stamp. Dissolution complete. And that was it. Outside, the sun was brighter than she expected. The breeze had teeth, but it wasn't cruel. She buttoned her coat slowly, adjusted her scarf, and walked back toward the train station, not rushed, not lingering, just present. At home, her apartment welcomed her with its usual calm. A mug still sat on the windowsill. Her planner lay open on the desk next to the unopened envelope that held the final check. She filed it away with the others, each now cataloged their numbers aligned like closed chapters. She opened her laptop, created a new spreadsheet, title solo, Q2. A budget, a plan, a beginning. Later that evening, as twilight turned the walls lavender, she sat with her journal open across her knees. The pages were mostly blank, she hadn't written since the night she'd left. But tonight the words came. What I keep is mine. What I gave away is done. She underlined the sentence twice, folded the page, gently closed the book, and smiled. Her phone buzzed. A message from Julia. Tea tonight. There's a place on 9th that swears they invented chamomile. Lena read it twice, then typed back one word. Okay. She looked toward the small corner of the apartment she'd turned into a nursery. The crib stood quietly still, unused, but no longer symbolic of delay or loneliness. Just readiness. She walked over, rested her hands on the edge of the frame, and whispered to the stillness. We start from here. After months of silence, omission, and quiet erasure, she didn't just reclaim her name, she reclaimed the truth. No courtroom speeches, no dramatic finales, just numbers, facts, and the calm resolve of someone who finally stopped asking for permission to exist. Justice, when rooted in clarity and courage, doesn't need applause. It arrives like a tide, slow, unstoppable, and quietly devastating to those who thought they'd never be held accountable. Because in the end, no lie survives a woman who learns to speak her own name again.